Hey team, just thought we'd go through, make a quick video, a bit of an educational piece, simply and purely because we've had a video land in our inbox probably at least a couple of dozen times now, which quite frankly is dangerous. So we're going to address it and give you guys obviously a bit of educational content here as well. The topic today, ironically, in line with my t-shirt, is going to be wound packing and going through and kind of dealing with that. Anyway, most of you will probably know who I am. I'm Simon Karkeek, former NZDF soldier and also private contractor / medic as well. So that's a little bit about me. I obviously kind of front this company, run this company, and we've been on an absolute mission to go through and bring hemorrhage control into the light and bring it up as as you know, the most important part of going through and having a big difference in terms of potential outcomes. Anyway, today joining me all the way from his lovely home across the hill is our good friend and also our colleague Ed. Ed, who are you? What are you about, man?
Hey guys, yeah, my name is Ed. Just kind of a little bit about kind of where I'm coming from experience-wise, medicine and all that kind of stuff. I'm a 20-year retired U.S. Army Special Forces medic. Did that for about 15 years. As part of that, again, multiple deployments as a senior medic on a Special Forces A team, and also a senior instructor at the Joint Special Operations Medical Training Center at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, teaching future Navy SEAL medics, Ranger medics, Green Beret medics, all that kind of stuff when it comes to medicine.
Bro, have you ever packed a wound?
I have packed a couple wounds. Yes, I have. I've packed a couple wounds.
Same, and I want to tell you about the first time I did pack a wound, actually. It was on somebody who, I won't give away too much around the surrounds of it, but put it this way, man, I was absolutely hammered drunk, had no real actual formal training, and the stuff that we had was pretty much just plain cotton. So it worked really, really, really well. We'll get into kind of how this kind of works kind of moving forward though. Anyways, what we're going through and doing is going to break this down. So first of all, on the body, where can we pack a wound? Well, pretty much anywhere. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, all the time. No, I would not agree with that at all.
Okay,
I mean, we can technically as like maybe a secondarily to tourniquets and things like that if we don't have them, or if it's whatever it might be.
Yep.
But the general actual areas that we want to be packing wounds are going to be those junctional regions where we can't get a tourniquet. And then if the bleeding is too bad, a bandage is not going to suffice in being able to provide the actual pressure upon the vessel that we need to stop the bleed. So that's going to be in that is going to be in the groin region, the genital region, pelvic region, things like that. Mm-hmm. You've got the neck also, and then working midwise, we've got the all those areas where the appendages, the limbs meet the trunk. That's pretty much where we're going for that.
Perfect. So let's look at this as goal-based medicine. Okay. So what I was doing there is throwing a bit of a trick question out to Ed, obviously, in terms of trying to make sure he is who he is, who he says he is. Either way, we're looking at the areas basically shoulders, well, neck, shoulders, remembering above the collarbones, around that subclavian area, right down through the armpit into the groin area as well. Those areas, wherever you find massive bleeding through those areas, we can't use TQ, we can't go through and control any other way except for maybe some IDP if you're good at that, or obviously digital occlusion, stick your finger into the wound. But the problem is then, you know, obviously you're very, very much committed to that person. So that being said, it is in those areas. There's no rhyme or reason. Various different studies indicate that it's probably more likely to be around the shoulders and the trap and neck that you will have to be packing. But you know, that's neither here nor there. Okay, so yeah, really important. Let's look at the tools. Okay, so one of the things which came about with this video was saying that we could use crate bandages. Okay, regular roll bandage, and that's just not the case. It's never going to work for you. It's stretchy, has an elastic content. It's hydrophobic and hemophobic, which basically means it's not going to go through and provide the basis. It's going to repel blood away from it. So it's not actually going to provide the basis for the clotting cascade to begin. So let's have a look at a couple of the other options. Of course, we have here at an individual level the Elias bandage, which has about 4.5 yards of gauze inside of it. And when we're talking about gauze, we're talking about 100% cotton gauze. Okay, this isn't a roller bandage. It has no elastication with it or elastic property within it. It is just straight up regular roll gauze. That being said, there are bandages out there. There is gauze out there which is impregnated with hemostatic stuff as well. You know, chemicals. You've got your Celox, you've got Quick Clot, which is kind of the pick of the bunch as far as I'm concerned. And you know, there's other brands out there as well. If you are out there running around the place and have the money, you have the funding and everything else like that to go through and buy that stuff, then hey, you know, power to you. And if you've, you know, gone through and practiced with it over and over and over and over again and become proficient with it, then power to you. But the reality is, for the everyday layman, okay, this stuff here, this just regular gauze inside the Elias bandage or inside of the standard crinkle gauze packet, this will absolutely suffice. This is what I've used every single time that I've gone through impact bandage, except for that first time was exactly the same stuff in that package. Ed, thoughts on hemostatics, thoughts on regular gauze?
Yeah, just I mean a couple of addendums to that. Again, like if you can do it with the basics, you can do it with anything. Again, training goes a long way. If you have gotten a bill of sale and been sold something that, oh man, all you gotta do is pour this powder into this wound, all you gotta do is stick this stuff in there, and it's the magic pill, please don't believe it, okay? It's all about the basics and doing the proper technique and making sure that we identify, isolate, and fully and or partially clamp that vessel to make sure that we actually stop the bleeding. Again, and we haven't mentioned this yet, but it's not about absorption when it comes to stopping massive life-threatening hemorrhage. It's about actually physically putting pressure onto that bleeding vessel. Yeah.
Perfect, there it is. The goal is control, not absorption. And that's a massive one. We're not trying to absorb it inside of a combine dressing. Those things are just, in my opinion and in my experience, absolutely dangerous when it comes to this kind of thing, because you're just soaking up a lot of blood going through. People start panicking, and the old school method of just putting pad over pad over pad over pad, we've well and truly gone away from that. So think of it like a hose out in your garden. You turn the tap on at the faucet, whatever else, slice the top of the hose off with a machete or clip it with some scissors, and it's pouring out everywhere. If you grab a towel or an old rag, bunch it up in your hand and push it down over the top, it's going to continue bleeding through. Whereas if you go through and you bunch up a nice tight little ball of gauze, or rag in this case, and shove it into the end of the hose, that is going to work far more effectively and in fact control that hose completely if we do it right. So what are we saying? Technique over fairy dust. How many times have you used hemostatics in terms of in real life?
In real life, hemostatics, none actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I've used a lot of hemostatics in training. There are those secondary things that you got to think about when you're using hemostatics. They start working really quickly, so if you're using gloves, you better be ready to not actually physically pull what you've just put in there with your gloves. Once that blood starts clotting on your gloves and starts drying out, it's going to be sticking to the hemostatic gauze every single time you take your hands out, and again, holding that direct pressure directly on there. And if as you're feeding that stuff in there, if you're not careful, you can fully take out your entire roll of gauze. So again, that's just something that we got to think about when we're doing that.
Clot popping, yeah, no, definitely, that's a big thing. So let's talk about actually the first time that you went through and packed a wound. What did your Powerball look like, man?
My Powerball actually was one of these. It literally was that, and it was that size. Okay, so again, this was a trip to Afghanistan, and it was a guy with a massive leg injury, i.e., an amputation at the hip, and literally my Powerball was this big. I literally took a full piece of Curlex out, crumpled it up as much as I could, and shoved it into the dude's pelvis, and basically jammed that iliac / femoral artery wherever it might have been in his body at that point, because again, it's all the same thing. But again, just jammed that femoral / iliac artery up into the guy's pelvis as best I possibly could, and tried to get as much occlusion as I possibly could on that, and then followed that up with about 3 or 4 more of these bandages right here, and that's kind of how we rode that guy all the way back. So again, yeah.
Yeah, massive. And let's go through and ask the most important question: did he live or did he die?
He did live. He did live. We won't go into how far he was. He was in the hospital. He was at the hospital for 8 or 9 months. So, but he died on the table a few times.
Okay.
But he lived. Everything like that. Yeah, he was able to be released and. From Bagram about 8 or 9 months later. Yeah.
Got back into the real world. Well, there it is. Okay, and I think if you want more anecdotes, then maybe we can do a bit of a yarn on that at a later stage. But either way, there goes a war story. Mine was way less cool the first time I did it. Like I said, I was just hammered drunk and essentially panic packing, blind packing. I had a rough idea, but really, when it comes to the crunch, and I learned how to do this stuff properly later on down the line, it was a big thing. Key takeaway: don't use this shit. Okay, you're going to get people fucking killed. Right, next, okay, what we're going to go through and do is show you guys how to go through and pack correctly, okay, run you guys through that, okay, so we're going to flip across the screen, expose the actual injured area. That's really important. Now, if you're by yourself, okay, I suggest going through and opening up your packaging first. All right, that gives you access to whatever you've got inside, whether it be in the layers bandage, whether it be a crinkle gauze, whatever, because once you get blood on your gloves, you are going to be in trouble. All right, from there, if you have somebody else around, taking a bit of a step back, if you have somebody else around, go through and have them do indirect pressure or direct pressure or digital occlusion, one of those 3. Now, for those who don't know what digital occlusion is, it's where we're placing our finger into the wound, identifying the source of bleeding, and then basically jamming our finger up against that source of bleeding. All right. From there, we want to go through and we want to have an idea of how big we want to make that power ball, and that's one of the benefits or one of the beauties of digital occlusion, is that once our finger is inside of that wound, we can go through then and make a rough decision about how large our power ball is or how small we need power ball to be. And from there, our finger is swapped out with that power ball. Place the power ball hard up and against that source of bleeding. And at this point, you can actually take a bit of a breather, especially if you're using just regular gauze, because you're going to know really quickly, if you're dealing with massive hemorrhage from an artery in particular, you're going to know whether this person is bleeding still once you get that power ball in place. Okay, it's going to be pretty obvious pretty quick. Put it this way, never dealt with a massive hemorrhage, which hasn't been pretty obvious pretty quickly, from arteries at least anyway. From there, we want to go through and we want to maintain continuous pressure against the source of bleeding. It's not just a case of going thumb over thumb, finger over finger. Look, some people like using their fingers, some people like using their thumbs. I don't really care. Remember, the goal in this case is going through and making sure that you maintain pressure against that power ball. That's the biggest thing. And from there, once we've actually got the power ball in place, once we've got the wound packing of the cavity completely filled up, we grab the remainder of the bandage, if there is any, and place it over the top. Or in Ed's case here, from real life, once again, going through and just placing additional rolls of Curlex into the bro's hip, okay? Hopefully you never have to deal with that. Hopefully the wounds, if you have to deal with any wound, is smaller than that, because that is nightmare, especially for a first one. Okay, kind of moving forward, we're going to switch back now, come away from the video. What we're going to do now is go through and give you guys a demonstration of blind packing. And this is essentially what was being done within the video which has been sent through to us. Unfortunately, this is never ever going to gain control. So you can see here, switch back to the actual video itself. Let's go through and have a look, okay? So we've got the active bleeding going on. And just a real quick shout out as well to True Clot. You can see here, this is the first trauma trainer that I bought from True Clot. That was about 7 years ago, I guess, maybe 8 years ago. And it is still going strong. Absolutely fantastic bit of kit. This is a great tool to go through and teach the fundamental basics of wound packing. You can get them in obviously the laceration here. Also, they come in a gunshot variant as well, and other products. Check our website out for that. Anyways, we can see here that the flow is still continuing no matter how much of the roller bandage we stuff in there, and yeah, no, we're kind of wasting our time. Sorry, bro. Okay, let me know if you want us to delete your browser history. Let us know what you want us to tell your wife and kids. Bro, you're dead, okay? Right, flipping back across, okay, let's talk about the bandaging. Okay, so once we've got this in place, and this is something that I kind of push as much as I can, unless we absolutely have to for whatever reason, I think junctional bandaging in terms of going through and anchoring that wound pack in place is not a good idea unless you do this stuff kind of all the time. What's your thoughts on that, Ed?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, and again, like, yeah, because a junctional wound bandage, you're going to be needing pretty specific things to be able to bandage that. You're not going to be getting that even with this guy right here, this 4-inch Oleus, be it an Israeli/emergency bandage. Any of those kind of 4-inch, I believe, what is it, that 10 centimeters here or so, those kinds of bandages, you're just not going to get the width, you're just not going to get the length that you need, especially in that pelvic region. So if you have never done that before, please don't allow this to be the first time you try to do that, because it's really just going to set you up for failure. If you do know that you do have that bleeding controlled and that hemorrhage controlled, just continue holding pressure, continue holding pressure, continue holding pressure. It takes about 3, 5, 10 minutes or so for blood to clot, okay? If you know that person is on blood thinners, their blood ain't gonna clot. So again, that's gonna present another problem to you. But it takes around the average person 5 to 10 minutes for blood to clot. Again, with that being said, do not set a timer on your watch and let it go off and say, beep, 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 beep. Oh, sweet, 10 minutes. Take your hands off and be like, already good, you're good, right, bro? You're good? Okay, cool, I'm gonna take off now. That's not what we wanna do, okay? That 10 minutes should just be kind of one of those things where, like, if I do not have large amounts of blood or just blood in general coming out, soaking my bandage, soaking my gauze, all of that kind of stuff, I can kind of take a breath, have a little bit of knowledge and hope in the fact that that bleeding is clotted, and we're probably good to go at this point. Okay, so that's usually what I would use that for as a guide as to how well or how badly I'm doing at that point, but it's not a reason to take pressure off of that cavity. Yeah,
I'm just going to address that straight up as well. On the video, whoever is going through and obviously dropping their knowledge bomb, very much dangerous knowledge, and probably not knowledge at all, just something made up, says you can let go after 3 minutes. That's bullshit. Absolutely ridiculous. And just to add on to what Ed said as well, just remember every layer that we add on top. So we've got our wound pack in there. That's already a reasonably unstable kind of intervention. As soon as we start adding layers, being ACE wraps, being SAM splints, being NANJ bottles, whatever else we got around to, get even more pressure across that wound and fix things in place. The problem that we deal with then is that's additional layers, and it's almost like building blocks or Jenga. The more blocks that you put, or the more kind of layers that there are, the more unstable it is. And if that tower comes crashing down, guess what? We're starting from the start. Now let's just address this as well. Failed pack. If we have a failed pack, what are we doing, bro?
We're just leaving everything in and then just putting more on, right? No. Okay.
He's trying to get me now.
All right. So if we do have a failed pack, first is take ego out of the equation and know that packing has failed, okay?
Yeah.
Don't please do not bring the need for drama into this, and we're gonna save this guy, pressure. Blood soaked gauze cannot clot blood, guys, so just remember, if you notice that gauze that you put in there, that bandaging material, that packing material has failed, please realize that. If you've got blood coming out of that wound, seeping out of that wound, you can feel the fluid through that packing bandaging or that packing material. Please, at that point, kind of take ego out of the equation. Start with a new rolled set of gauze. Fix your power ball again, and then as best you possibly can, take that blood-soaked gauze out of there and go back at it and try to get that bleeder again. Again, the biggest thing I want you guys to know: blood-soaked gauze cannot clot blood, so you do not have hemorrhage control. If you have that, there's not hemorrhage control, so that person is going to just slowly bleed out. They're still going to have the same possibility of an ending. It's just going to come on a little bit slower for them at this point. Yeah.
There it is, and I think that's a great point as well. Ego, don't let yours get in the way. Okay, we're not out here being dickheads. We're addressing an issue. It's dangerous, and if we have to go live, we have to jump on the Facebook or the Instagram or the YouTube or whatever it may be. That's exactly what we'll do, because at the end of the day, providing a service to the public or providing a service to any patient whatsoever, that's completely unacceptable, going through and dropping these kind of untruth bombs as such. So what we're going to go through and do is, love it if you guys would comment. Feel free to drop any replies that you would like to. Always up for a conversation. We're not about kind of just throwing shit for the sake of it. If you haven't already, go through, like us across the Instagram, the Facebook, and we're on the YouTube as well. That's pretty limited. Hopefully get some more content up there. And if you have any questions about the stuff whatsoever, remember, there's no ego to this stuff. It's just good med. We want better outcomes, because at the end of the day, this could be me sitting there hosing out my neck or hosing out my arm or whatever else. And I want you, the average New Zealander, or the average responder out there, to go through and know how to do this stuff properly. Team, stay safe out there. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you guys got something from this, and thank you, Ed.
Yeah, you're welcome, man.
Yeah, appreciate your time, man. Legends. See you on the flip side, guys. No ego, just good med.